Welcome to the Bend Don't Break podcast. I'm Aaron Schweitzer, publisher of The Source, your host with the effervescent co-hostess Laurel Bronze. This podcast is powered by The Source Weekly, Bend's locally owned newspaper. Listeners tune in to find out how our community is adapting to living in our new normal. This week, we are chatting with Jeshua Marshall. He was the bassist and co-founder of the internationally known punk band Larry His Flask, which toured with the Dropkick Murphys and played the main stage of the Warped Tour. Jeshua was born in Baker City, Oregon, and moved to Redmond in 1996 for middle and high school. He worked as a campaign manager for Greg Delgato, who ran for state senate in 2016. Over the last few years, he has become more visible in the local scene as a solo artist and with his two bands, Guardian of the Underdog and Hot Club of Bend. Last year, in the middle of the pandemic, he released his first solo album, Go Go, with the help of his friend and drummer, Todd Rosenberg, of the ska band Mad Caddies. We wanted to catch up with Jeshua because artists have been impacted by the pandemic, probably more than most classes of our community, and we'd like to get his thoughts. So Jeshua, thanks for spending some time with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're not on his resume, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, is Jeshua's also the king of the Winterfest 2018.
Yes,
so
indeed.
It's not in the bio, but I couldn't leave that out. So.
Yeah, my crown's right. I keep my crown over there.
Right. Jeshua, you're known as a music legend here in Bend. People tell stories of you and your brother Jamin forming bands and playing together in high school in Redmond. What inspired you creatively back then, and how do you keep it going?
Well, part of back then when we started, we were just in high school and wanted to find a way to express ourselves. We grew up in a pretty conservative, Christian and religious household. So, of course, as soon as we found bands like Bad Religion and Rancid and NoFX, we just really clung to the message that was coming from those CDs and tapes, and wanted to express ourselves and kind of rebel in a way.
Yeah.
So, and I guess still to some extent still rebelling a bit.
So don't stop.
Don't stop. What is it like now? I mean, you've kind of moved into this new chapter in your life where you're really, the captain of your own ships with your own bands. You put out all these solo singles. So that's kind of contrasted with your time as like such a unit with Larry and His Flask. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Just kind of like widen the spectrum and loosen the boundaries, I suppose. Larry and His Flask, we kind of became a very tight unit, and it kind of lost some of the ability to just do whatever I want. So being kind of complete control gives me, it's more challenges, but it's also more rewards in some sense, because I can just, put out whatever I'm feeling, whatever's on my heart, whatever's on my mind, and just not necessarily have to talk about it. I just do it, which can be, can be whatever it is, I suppose.
Jeshua, without the crowds and the live music scene that's got to be your lifeblood, what's it been like during this time as a musical artist to just kind of look inward and try to create that art within your four walls?
Yeah, definitely a challenge. The first, when it, like in March of last year, when everything really just closed down abruptly, it was a definite shock, obviously, for everyone.
Sure.
But especially from folks that, rely on people gathering together to not only, bring in income and pay their bills, but also satisfy their creative quest and urge, like somebody like me. And at first I was kind of stoked in a way, because I thought I would be super creative and I would write a bunch of songs, and I I got in a groove for a second, and then I just got real depressed for a couple weeks and was bummed and not really creating too much. But when things started opening back up again, I was able to, with some folks, Charlie Utter being one, and a few other, we created a music collective called the High Desert Music Collective, and we were able to put on, I think now we're at like 60 plus concerts, some of them strictly live streams, some of them not live streams, but we were able to do live music all summer at Silver Moon, and I played quite a bit, not as much as usual, and mostly solo gigs. But I was able to stay pretty active after, I guess, from kind of June and July on until the most recent shutdown. But
yeah, do you consider, because Oregon's starting to become somewhat of an outlier with how restricted and closed we are, do you and your bandmates or creatives around you think about going to other states where you can get in front of larger crowds and get more juice?
I can't speak for anybody else, but personally, I don't really feel comfortable about that. I feel I definitely, believe in the science of this and what the experts are saying. I certainly don't want to contribute in a negative fashion. I don't want to. I feel fine about playing, playing at outside at Silver Moon where there's 40 or so people, maybe max, all separated outside, even in the winter. I feel okay about that. But if we were talking bringing 100 or more people together, no matter where it was, I wouldn't really rest on my conscience until the scientists and doctors and like authorities on these matters express that we're at a point where that's safe again.
Yeah, great.
Tell us about the process of releasing Go Go. You did something pretty creative, I feel like, and sort of maybe to compensate for the restraints of the pandemic. You released it like, one song at a time, I believe. Yeah, tell us about the album and the sound. And
so right kind of before, I guess in December of 2019, I started talking to Todd Rosenberg, who's the producer for Go Go and those songs, and we're currently constantly working on music together. He's also the drummer of the ska reggae punk band Mad Caddies, and he lives here in Bend. He has created a studio. Kind of just as he was finishing it, we started talking about recording a full length, and we just had some conversations, and him being a veteran kind of OG in the music industry and in the realm that I'm in as well, punk and alternative kind of zone. He actually was the one that suggested to release kind of one single at a time, just to. It's a very interesting era, as you guys are aware, I'm sure. The music industries, even before everything shutting down and whatnot, it's, CDs are kind of on their way out, it seems. Vinyl will kind of always be there, I think. It seems like it's proving that, but now there's this whole other realm of Spotify kind of being the main player, like make or break for artists. So in order to kind of play the game of the algorithms that the Spotify monster rotates through is to release a song every 6 weeks and get it on playlists, and playlists are kind of the new radio play, which radio play is tough for anybody that's not on a major, because the major labels are, pay for those spots and whatnot, and have that have that ability to stay on that rotation. But Spotify is kind of it's kind of the wild west in a way. So we're just trying to navigate it. And he suggested that to do one single at a time and just keep people interested and keep kind of the buzz building and Yeah, it seems to be working so far, and that way you also don't have to have the upfront cost of recording a full album, and especially if you're doing it independently, you don't have to, have a bunch of money set aside just to record 10 plus songs and then press it onto CDs or vinyl, which is, that can stack up real fast. So it's kind of a
do you think
alternate
that
way.
do you think that I hadn't thought about this till you started talking, but as we can see with the pandemic, that people are being driven away from mom and pop retail more towards Amazon, and it's this trend where locals getting really hammered by this thing. Are you seeing, I mean, the move in your industry was already towards digital downloads, Spotify, Apple Music, and you kind of just touched on it, but is it going to get harder for local musicians, or do you think that is Spotify opening opportunities? What's your perception of the landscape?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the knowledge that local musicians have access to. Because I think Spotify can be very beneficial in a way, as long as you are constantly promoting it, and promoting your channel, your profile or whatever, and really driving people there. But that's hard. And I don't know if it's I don't think it's the end all be all. I think that's part of it where it gets very difficult as an independent musician, is like, where do you want to put the most energy, and which, some people, like I have a good friend of mine, Billy Mickelson. He's a cellist. His stage name is Third Seven. And he, he's not on Spotify. He's not on any of that. He's just all about, he's a very DIY kind of like anarcho ethos centered dude. So I don't know if he'll ever get on there. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be for everyone. I just, where I'm at, I feel that that's the way to go. But I think there's so many different things, and it really depends what your focus is and where you want to head. I don't know if I answered
yeah, you did. I mean, I think you're giving me the sense that there's just this space where local musicians are going to really go for it and push themselves up into more of a commercial and digital realm with Spotify, or they're going to be more like your friend who just kind of I think you said, do it yourself on the local scene, be comfortable with that, be comfortable with playing for the folks in your neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. I think that's kind of exactly it. If if you want to tour, and obviously there's no touring going right now, but if in the future, I'm sure things will open back up eventually, and they'll be touring. And that's kind of what ensures that you get gigs these days, which is kind of weird. But when, I also book a lot of music in town, and when an out of town artist, hits me up and is like, I want to play, we want to play your venue, whatever, I'm going to put their name into Spotify and look at how many followers and listeners. And that may not be the best way, because that doesn't necessarily mean that they have listeners in Bend, Oregon or whatever, but it's just kind of a good calling card, to look at, to realize how established an artist is, I suppose.
Right.
So
switching gears a little bit, you have a reputation as kind of a social justice warrior, and you get involved in Black Lives Matter protests and other groups for civil rights. So can you tell us a little bit about your political activism and how you got charged up about it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would call myself a social justice warrior, but I mean, it's interesting, especially in this era with the polarization, thanks to social media and Facebook and all that stuff. But I just consider myself a human being that knows how I want to be treated, and I don't want to see anybody else treated in a way that I wouldn't want to be treated. And I can't feel good about myself at the end of the day if I'm not actively doing whatever I can, whatever is in my power to speak up and make a difference, whether it's minute or large, you know. I mean, it's political, it's called political, but I think it's just about being a human being. I know a lot of musicians say, oh, I don't want to be political, we can't get in that realm, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of how other people are treating you and treating your family and your friends. And I can't just sit idle by and allow people I love to be treated worse than I would be treated, just based on something as out of our control as what skin color we're born into, or what class level we're born into.
I think maybe the difference, Jeshua, is that, you know, a lot of people can share those same thoughts, but you move into the warrior category when you're actually putting boots on the streets and showing up for these kind of things. And, you know, I would tell our reporters when we were covering these things this summer to, you know, be aware that it's dangerous. It's dangerous work in our case. And it's dangerous for protesters. Those things can go sideways. You see them all the time. And I think that's a big difference between, you know, someone who cares, and there's a lot of those, to people like yourself who put yourself physically out there into that space.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also dictated by, you know, by where you're at in your life. Like, you know, if I had kids or if I had health conditions, or I don't know, I can't say for sure, but I'm not judging anybody that doesn't feel comfortable with going into those positions, because I've seen kids get shot, I've seen girls get their eyes blown out, I've been tear gassed and all that stuff, but I'm in good health, I'm young, and I feel like I am able to be in those places now. Like, I won't probably in, you know, 15 or 20 years or whatnot, who knows. But I feel if I'm able, and a lot of times I just can't not go, you know. I'm like, something will be happening and I'll be just sitting at home like, what do I have to be there? Like, I don't know. I think that if your inner voice is telling you to like go there and be present, then you, like, for my case, I just have to listen to that and go do that and be as safe as possible.
Don't you feel though that there's a little bit, I mean, you're being very nice, but in some cases, people who are not getting out there, and you brushed on it briefly, and spending their time on social media and making a lot of bold statements and calling other people out, but they're actually not, you know, in some cases, maybe true. Maybe they do have children or health conditions that would come out. But in most cases, for a lot of people in younger generations, you've got to put your shoe leather out there, as they used to say. You got to show up, and you've got to see that from the stuff that you've been putting out, or do you?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if you just look at history with the civil rights movement and all the folks like MLK and everybody else that was organizing, stuff only got like changed because there was mass numbers of people out there in the streets. And yeah, it absolutely does take that. And, you know, people get hurt and people unfortunately get killed sometimes to advance rights for other people. And yeah, it would be awesome if all my friends were like willing to do that, but I don't know. I'm not gonna hate on anybody, but
yeah,
I think for me it's just practice what you preach, and if I'm gonna say something, I need to also be doing it. I think it goes the same for everybody, but I'm also not anybody's police, so right. I just gotta do what's right for myself.
That's tremendous, Jeshua. It is, really.
Thank you.
So tell us about your trip to Palestine. I know that had some some civil rights going on there, and it was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, that was 2017,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah, that was amazing. Extremely eye-opening experience, and just incredible. The Palestinian people are some of the strongest, most resilient folks I've ever met, and was really blessed and lucky to get to spend a bit of time, a couple months, just playing music. I kind of joined a band. I joined this house band and just played bass every Saturday night and for about 2 months at this little venue in Bethlehem. Did some different recordings and stuff, but yeah, basically I went over there to work on this project called Seven Hills, about this skate park in Amman, Jordan, that Jesse Locke, local filmmaker, through Rise Up International, was putting this documentary together, and I got invited to go, so I helped film a little bit, and then I kind of ended up in Bethlehem, just hanging out and getting to know folks and kind of exploring and learning about that area and the conflict and whatnot.
So Jeshua, I don't think people, some people might be aware, but Larry His Flask won Best Local Band several years in a row from our publication, and it was such a beloved band. And Laurel and I were having a little debate beforehand. Which band member cried when you guys broke up of the four?
I mean,
it had to be an emotional moment. I mean, and I think everybody in the community was kind of like, what's going to happen now? So.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I think we all probably cry from time to time, but yeah, it's not completely over. We're working on new music right now. And getting some things kind of going in the side. So you might be surprised to see something pop out.
I know listeners and readers would be very happy to see you guys back. I mean, as someone who booked you guys at some of our festivals and stages throughout time, you guys are always a lock. You always have an incredible following turnout, and I'm sure there's a lot of people pinning their hopes on you guys being creative again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, before we let you go, maybe share with our listeners where they can find your music and where they can see you play live or virtually coming up.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, like we said before, you can find me on Spotify. Just search Jeshua Marshall. Also, I have a website, jeshuamarshall.com. I'm on Instagram at Jeshua Marshall, Facebook, Jeshua Marshall Music, I think. And I'll be playing again, I believe, on Valentine's Day at Bunk and Brew. And yeah, I'm also I'm on Apple Music and everywhere else. And I'm currently finishing up a full-length album that I'll be releasing in the summer, so you can keep an ear out for that. I'll probably be releasing another single from it in the next couple months.
Great. Joshua, thank you for spending the time, and stay safe out there.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Have a good one.
Thanks.
All right.